I was in the bedroom, and he came in, and he immediately became very angry.
It was a quiet Sunday evening when the calm of Manatee County, Florida, was shattered. On September 27, 2020, a frantic 911 call echoes. A woman's voice, trembling yet urgent, pleads for help. "I've shot him! He was attacking me! I had no choice!" she gasps. The voice belongs to Ashley Benefield, a former ballet dancer, now suspected of fatally shooting her husband, Douglas Benefield, in what she claims was self-defense. As sirens wail in the background, a critical question hangs in the air. Was it self-defense or something far more sinister? Ashley Benefield, born Ashley Bewers, grew up with a passion for ballet that defined her early life. Before she became entangled in a fatal confrontation, she had danced on political stages too, briefly working on Donald Trump's campaign before refocusing on her true passion, ballet. Her ambitions were not just confined to dance. Ashley also modeled swimsuits, showcasing a life poised between artistic elegance and the harsh realities of public scrutiny. This blend of public persona and private ambitions set the stage for her later complexities in personal relationships, especially the one with her husband, whom she met under glamorous yet precipitous circumstances. Douglas Benefield, a former Navy pilot turned technology developer, had his life steeped in discipline and achievement. His military background gave him a stoic demeanor, which was both respected and feared. Before meeting Ashley, Douglas was a widower, his first wife Renee having died unexpectedly from an undiagnosed heart condition, leaving him to raise their daughter, Eva, alone. A man of substantial means, Douglas found success in various ventures, from real estate to high-tech military applications, marking him as a well-established figure in both business and social circles. His life took a hopeful turn when he met Ashley, not realizing then how profoundly this new partnership would change his destiny. On a balmy evening in June 2016, at a lavish fundraiser hosted at Ben Carson's Palm Beach residence, Ashley Bewers, a former ballet dancer turned campaign staffer, met Douglas Benefield, a widowed military veteran turned tech entrepreneur. Their introduction was no mere coincidence, but the alignment of two lives on similar trajectories, both marked by ambition and a fervent reverence for conservative values. They conversed with ease, discussing everything from the Second Amendment to their Christian faith, finding common ground in their passions and life philosophies. Compelled by a connection that felt both profound and predestined, their relationship escalated rapidly. Within days of their first meeting, they were inseparable, with Douglas enamored by Ashley's charm and her zeal for ballet, an art form he knew little about, but was eager to support for her sake. By the time 2 weeks had passed, proposals were made, and vows were exchanged. On June 28, 2016, they married in a private ceremony, a swift union that fused their lives and ambitions. The haste of their marriage belied the serious commitments they made, to each other and to a shared future that promised fulfillment of their dreams, both personally and professionally. Renee Benefield's untimely death in March 2015 from an undiagnosed heart condition left Douglas a widower, grappling with grief while trying to raise his daughter Eva alone. Renee had been a cornerstone of stability for the family. Her nurturing presence and pragmatic sensibility had kept Douglas grounded. Her passing not only plunged Douglas into deep sorrow, but also instilled in him a fear of loneliness, which perhaps precipitated his swift courtship and subsequent marriage to Ashley. Renee's shadow lingered in Douglas's interactions, her absence a palpable void that no hurried love could adequately fill. This backdrop of loss and the emotional vulnerabilities it exposed in Douglas would later color his relationship with Ashley, introducing strains and expectations that were perhaps unfairly placed on a new marriage that had little time to naturally evolve. Initially, the union between Ashley and Douglas sparkled with potential. Eager to blend their passions, they founded the American National Ballet in Charleston, South Carolina. This venture was Ashley's dream, envisioning a ballet company that championed inclusivity and provided opportunities for overlooked talents. Douglas, ever the supportive spouse, invested heavily, both emotionally and financially. Their shared enterprise began with promise and enthusiasm. capturing the community's interest and garnering modest acclaim. However, as the ballet company struggled to find its footing, financial pressures and managerial disagreements began to surface. Ashley's ambitious nature clashed with the realities of a competitive field, and Douglas's patience waned as resources dwindled. The stress spilled over into their home life, where disagreements became frequent. Ashley felt increasingly isolated in her marital and professional roles, her vision for the ballet suffocated by financial constraints and Douglas's growing reticence. Complicating matters further was the presence of Eva, Douglas's daughter from his previous marriage. Eva's relationship with Ashley was tenuous at best, marked by jealousy and competition for Douglas's attention. The familial strife culminated in a distressing incident in early 2017, where, during a particularly heated argument, Douglas discharged a firearm into the ceiling of their home. This act of desperation underscored the volatile undercurrent of their relationship and foreshadowed the severe breakdowns that would follow. In a bid to escape the escalating tensions, Ashley moved to Florida in late 2017, under the pretext of needing peace for her pregnancy-induced health issues. This separation, while meant to be temporary, marked the beginning of a more permanent estrangement. During this period, Ashley's fears about Douglas's temper and the safety of their unborn child intensified, leading her to secretive actions. She returned to Charleston only to collect her belongings and left Douglas a note expressing her fears and her decision not to return. This note accused Douglas of creating a home environment fraught with danger and instability, allegations that Douglas found both shocking and unfounded. Her departure set the stage for a bitter legal and custodial battle that would only resolve in the wake of tragedy. The final unraveling of Ashley and Douglas's marriage coincided with the collapse of the American National Ballet. Financial ruin and personal grievances made their collaborative dream unsustainable. Ashley, feeling betrayed and cornered, escalated her claims against Douglas by accusing him of poisoning her, leveraging these accusations to gain sympathy and legal advantage. These accusations were part of a broader strategy to secure custody of their child and to salvage what remained of her assets. Ashley's maneuvers painted Douglas in a damning light, complicating his efforts to defend himself both personally and legally. Her tactics included filing restraining orders and fabricating claims of domestic abuse, all aimed at undermining Douglas's character and parental rights. The community that once supported their ballet dream watched in dismay as the couple's private turmoil spilled into the public view, culminating in the tragic events of September 2020. As their marriage disintegrated, so too did their professional lives, with the ballet company closing down amidst public and financial turmoil. The dream that once brought them together ultimately tore them apart, its demise a stark testament to the destructive power of unmet expectations and unresolved grievances. The fallout from these events set the stage for the fatal confrontation that would forever alter their lives and leave the community grappling with the consequences. Douglas's daughter, Eva, was profoundly affected by her mother Renee's sudden death in March 2015. The bond between father and daughter strengthened as they navigated their grief together, but this dynamic was tested with Ashley's entrance into their lives. Eva struggled to accept Ashley, who was not just a stepmother, but also a symbol of too rapid change. The introduction of Ashley into the household so soon after her mother's death felt to Eva like an erasure of Renee's memory. Tensions grew as Eva grappled with her loyalty to her mother's memory and the presence of a new mother figure who seemed to vie for her father's attention. These tensions were palpable and often manifested in cold interactions and silent meals, illustrating the fragile threads upon which new family bonds were precariously hanging. The discontent within the Benefield home escalated significantly leading up to the shooting incident. In spring 2017, a heated argument dramatically showcased the underlying volatility when Douglas, in a moment of extreme frustration during a dispute with Ashley, discharged a firearm into the kitchen ceiling. This shocking incident was a distressing sign of how strained their marriage had become. Ashley perceived this act as both a literal and metaphorical breaking point, significantly fearing for her safety, which she later cited in her defense. Ashley's anxiety was not just about her relationship with Douglas, but also about the well-being of their unborn child. She reported that the stress and the aggressive atmosphere at home were affecting her health, which was already compromised by a difficult pregnancy. In the late summer of 2017, Ashley decided to temporarily move to Florida to stay with her mother, claiming the need for a more peaceful environment to improve her health and prepare for the birth of their child. This move, while intended as a temporary measure to find respite and safety, marked a significant turning point. It deepened the chasm between Douglas and Ashley, setting the stage for further allegations and legal battles. The physical distance between them became a metaphor for their rapidly disintegrating marriage, as communication broke down and mistrust spiraled into further accusations and confrontations. The seeds of discord sown by these incidents would eventually lead to the tragic conclusion of their tumultuous relationship. On September 27, 2020, a seemingly ordinary Sunday was about to descend into chaos at the Benefield residence in the Lakewood Ranch neighborhood of Manatee County, Florida. The morning passed uneventfully, with Douglas Benefield sending loving texts to his wife Ashley, as he often did. His messages were filled with optimism about their upcoming move to Maryland, set to occur in just 2 days, which they both hoped would herald a new beginning for their troubled relationship. By afternoon, the tone of the day shifted dramatically. At 5:30 p.m., Douglas texted Ashley, humorously updating her that he was on his way home in a rented U-Haul truck, eager to load it with their belongings. This text, playful and hopeful, belied the horror that was about to unfold. Douglas arrived at their home around 6 p.m. Neighbors later reported a normal scene as he began unloading some boxes. However, within a short time, the situation escalated rapidly behind closed doors. By approximately 7:25 p.m., gunshots were heard. At 7:30 p.m., a hysterical Ashley called 911, her voice trembling as she declared that she had shot Douglas in self-defense. She claimed that during an argument, Douglas had become violent, prompting her to use her handgun. When deputies arrived minutes later, they found Douglas on the bedroom floor, unresponsive, with 2 gunshot wounds, one in his chest and another in his leg. These injuries were not consistent with Ashley's claims of self-defense, as the entry wounds indicated shots fired from a distance, not in a close struggle. Ashley, covered in blood and visibly distressed, was taken into custody while emergency services confirmed Douglas's death at the scene. The immediate fallout was one of confusion and grief, compounded by the stark contrast between the couple's hopeful communications earlier in the day and the violent conclusion. The community and their families struggled to reconcile the Douglas they knew, a loving father and husband, with the scene that unfolded. This tragic event marked a profound and shocking end to Douglas's life and their marriage. The investigation into Douglas Benefield's death began immediately. Manatee County Sheriff's detectives cordoned off the scene, collecting evidence meticulously. The house, set to be packed up for the planned move, was instead scattered with the grim markers of the crime, bullet casings, blood spatter, and the couple's belongings haphazardly strewn about. Forensic analysis revealed crucial details. The gun used was Ashley's .45 caliber handgun, found at the scene along with 2 other firearms in the house, which were not used in the crime. Gunpowder residue tests on Ashley's hands and clothing were positive, supporting the fact that she was the shooter. However, the residue patterns and ballistic trajectory analysis suggested that the shots were fired from at least 3 feet away, contradicting Ashley's statement that Douglas had been attacking her up close. Furthermore, the autopsy results detailed Douglas's injuries. The bullet to his chest had pierced his heart, a fatal wound almost instantly deadly, while the shot to his leg suggested he might have been turning away or fleeing, as it was fired from behind. These findings undermined Ashley's self-defense claim, suggesting a possible altercation where Douglas was trying to retreat rather than advance. Detectives interviewed neighbors and pieced together the couple's last days, which painted a picture of a relationship fraying at the edges, filled with arguments and unrest. The evidence collected painted a complex picture of domestic life gone awry, steering the investigation towards scrutinizing Ashley's motives and state of mind at the time of the shooting. Based on the forensic evidence and inconsistencies in her account, Ashley was arrested and charged with second-degree murder. The charge reflected the belief that while the killing might not have been premeditated, it was intentional, carried out in anger or desperation rather than self-defense. Ashley, maintaining her innocence, asserted that her actions were in self-defense, a claim she would later rely on during her trial. The case quickly garnered media attention, sparking debates on self-defense laws, gun ownership, and domestic violence. The community was left reeling, trying to make sense of how a planned family move turned into a tragic shooting. As the legal proceedings commenced, all eyes were on the courtroom, awaiting to see if Ashley's defense would hold up under legal scrutiny or if the evidence of her guilt would prove overwhelming. Ashley's 911 call, made at 7:28 p.m., was not just a plea for help, but also a calculated assertion of self-defense. In her call, Ashley claimed that Douglas had attacked her during an intense argument about their imminent move, which she portrayed as a trigger for his alleged aggression. This assertion was critically examined against the backdrop of Ashley's subsequent behavior and the physical evidence at the scene. Contrary to her statement, forensic analysis determined that the gunshots were not fired in close proximity, suggesting that Douglas may not have been the immediate threat Ashley claimed. The position and trajectory of the bullets indicated that Douglas could have been moving away from Ashley at the time he was shot. The entry wound in his back and the lack of defensive wounds strongly contradicted Ashley's version of events, hinting at a possible premeditated action rather than a spontaneous act of self-defense. Moreover, neighbors' testimonies conflicted with the timing of Ashley's narrative. They reported a relatively calm afternoon with no signs of disturbance until the sound of gunshots, suggesting that the fatal confrontation was brief and escalated quickly. These insights, coupled with the forensic discrepancies, painted a picture of premeditation and manipulation, challenging the credibility of Ashley's self-defense claim and pointing towards a more sinister motive rooted in the couple's troubled relationship and Ashley's apparent desire to alter her life's trajectory drastically without Douglas in it. These findings led to a shift in the investigation's focus, from examining the shooting as a defensive act to treating it as a potential homicide with Ashley as the prime suspect. The additional details not only provided clarity, but also highlighted the complexity of domestic incidents, where the truth can be obscured by the emotions and chaos inherent in personal relationships. During the trial, extensive psychological evaluations were presented that revealed Ashley exhibited signs of paranoia and possibly delusional thinking. Tests conducted by forensic psychologists suggested that her claims of self-defense and Douglas's alleged aggression might have been influenced by her distorted perceptions of reality. These mental health revelations painted a complex picture of Ashley's psychological state, implying that her actions could have been driven by irrational fears rather than factual threats. Douglas's brother, Tommy Benefield, testified about the deep affection Douglas had for Ashley, despite the troubled nature of their marriage. He recounted numerous instances where Douglas expressed his unconditional love and unwavering commitment to making their relationship work. Tommy's testimony highlighted the stark contrast between Douglas's loving intentions and the fearful, defensive posture adopted by Ashley. This discrepancy was pivotal in shaping the jury's understanding of the relational dynamics and Ashley's possibly misguided perceptions. Ashley's defense centered on her claims of self-defense, arguing that she had felt imminently threatened by Douglas on the night of the murder. Her legal team pointed to the psychological evaluations as evidence of her vulnerable mental state, which they argued could have exacerbated her perception of threat, leading to a tragic overreaction. They meticulously detailed the events leading up to the shooting, emphasizing Ashley's alleged fear and the chaotic nature of their final confrontation. However, the prosecution challenged this narrative by presenting forensic evidence that contradicted her account. They argued that the lack of close-range gunshot residue and the trajectory of the bullets suggested Douglas was not attacking Ashley, but rather retreating from her when he was shot. This evidence, coupled with the psychological report suggesting Ashley's paranoia, painted a picture of premeditation and manipulation, rather than self-defense. A crucial element of the case was the couple's child, who was born via cesarean section shortly before the events that led to Douglas's death. Ashley had orchestrated the birth in secrecy, not informing Douglas of his daughter's arrival until months later. This action significantly delayed Douglas's first meeting with his child, which did not occur until the child was 6 months old, following legal interventions. This delay was a source of much anguish for Douglas, who had been eager to be involved in his daughter's life from the start. The prosecution argued that Ashley's motives extended beyond fear for her personal safety. she was also driven by a desire to control her daughter's interactions with Douglas. They suggested that Ashley's actions were part of a broader scheme to exclude Douglas from their child's life completely. This narrative was supported by evidence of Ashley's manipulative actions, including her unilateral decisions regarding their child's birth and custody arrangements.
He's saying the neighbor came over, female neighbor. It was a domestic. She shot her husband.
As the trial progressed, the complexities of the case unfolded, leading to a tense courtroom atmosphere. The trial's conclusion was scheduled for July 22, 2024, where final arguments would be heard before the jury deliberated on Ashley's fate. The stakes were high, with Ashley facing serious time if convicted, not just for murder, but for the calculated dismantling of her husband's parental rights. The legal proceedings revealed not only the tragic end of Douglas Benefield, but also highlighted the severe implications of psychological disorders when intertwined with familial legal battles. The trial served as a poignant reminder of the complexities involved in domestic violence cases, where the lines between perpetrator and victim can often become blurred, influenced by deep-seated fears, misconceptions, and the law's attempt to untangle the truth. The tragic case of Douglas Benefield's death unveils a tangled web of emotions, motives, and misperceptions. Ashley's actions, driven by a complex mix of fear, possibly exacerbated by her psychological condition, reflect a profound tragedy rather than malice. Douglas, depicted by family as loving and committed, emerges as a sympathetic figure whose intentions may have been misunderstood by Ashley. Their story is a stark reminder of how fear and mental health can distort reality, leading to irreversible actions that culminate in violence, altering lives forever. Was Ashley truly defending herself, or were her actions premeditated, influenced by her distorted perceptions? Can justice truly be served when the lines between perception and reality are so blurred? The case challenges us to think about the nature of self-defense. At what point does a perceived threat justify lethal action? As we reflect on this case, let us consider the broader implications for legal systems handling similar cases of domestic violence, where psychological factors complicate the truth. How can we better protect potential victims while ensuring that justice discerns the truth amid fear and paranoia?